Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, staring at the strange ships that had appeared at the edge of the solar system. After 300 years of dreaming about meeting aliens, humanity had finally gotten its wish. The problem was these aliens didn't seem very friendly. "Sir, they're sending another message," said Lieutenant Amy Clark from her position at the communication station. Her young face showed worry as she adjusted the controls. "Same as before. They want to talk to our leaders." Morrison nodded and opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. On the main screen, Admiral Lisa Carter appeared, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Behind her stood Dr. Kevin Ross, Earth's top alien specialist, though until today he had only studied theory. "Admiral, the alien ships are holding position just past Pluto," Morrison reported. "They've been there for 6 hours now. No hostile moves, but they won't come any closer to Earth." Carter's face was grim. "Any idea what they want, Captain?" "They keep asking to speak with our planetary authority. I think they want to talk to someone in charge of the whole planet." Dr. Ross stepped forward, his thick glasses catching the light. "Captain, can you describe these ships? What do they look like?" Morrison turned to look at the main screen, where the alien vessels hung in space like giant crystals. "They're beautiful, Doctor. Like someone carved them out of pure diamond. Maybe 2 miles long each, and they glow with their own light. I've never seen anything like them." The alien message came through again, and this time the translation was clearer. The computer had been working for hours to understand their language. A voice filled the bridge, musical and strange like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "People of the third planet, we are the Dominion Council of the Galactic Empire. We come to deliver an important message to your species. Please respond." "Admiral," Carter took a deep breath. "Captain Morrison, tell them we're ready to listen, but keep your weapons powered up just in case." The alien response came quickly. The main screen shimmered, and suddenly they were looking at the most beautiful creature any human had ever seen. It stood 12 feet tall with skin that looked like living crystal. Its face was almost human but perfect in every way. When it spoke, colors flowed across its transparent skin. "I am High Counselor Vex Miran of the Dominion Council. We have been watching your species for many cycles. You have recently developed faster-than-light travel, which brings you to our attention." Dr. Ross whispered to Admiral Carter, "This is incredible. They've been watching us." "How long, do you think?" The alien continued, its voice growing colder. "However, after careful study, the Galactic Empire has determined that humanity is not ready to join the galactic community. Your species is too young, too violent, and too chaotic. You wage wars among yourselves and destroy your own planet." Captain Morrison felt anger rising in his chest. Who were these aliens to judge humanity? "With respect, Counselor, we've been working to fix our problems. We've had peace on Earth for 50 years now." The aliens' colors shifted to harsh reds and purples. 50 years is nothing. We have records of your species' behavior over thousands of cycles. You are dangerous and unpredictable. Therefore, the Empire has made a decision." Admiral Carter leaned forward in her chair back on Earth. "What kind of decision?" "Your solar system, your resources, and your people now belong to the Galactic Empire by right of superior civilization. You will be integrated into our society as a client species. Your warlike nature will be controlled, and your world will serve the greater good of the galaxy." The bridge of the New Horizon fell silent. Morrison looked around at his crew, seeing the same shock and anger on every face. Lieutenant Clark's hands were shaking as she worked at her station. The young woman had joined the space service to explore the stars, not to be told that Earth was now property of alien masters. "You can't be serious," Morrison said, his voice steady despite his rage. "You can't just claim our planet because you think you're better than us." The alien's expression didn't change. "We can, and we have. You have 1 galactic standard cycle to prepare your people. That equals approximately 18 of your months. When we return, there will be no resistance. You will accept integration, peacefully, or we will enforce it." Dr. Ross stepped closer to the screen. "What exactly does integration mean?" "Your military forces will be disbanded. Your governments will be replaced with imperial administrators. Your people will be relocated to worlds where they can be properly supervised. Some may be selected for educational programs to help them become useful citizens of the Empire. The alien paused, its colors shifting to a cold blue. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. We are being generous by giving you time to accept your new situation. Other species have not been so fortunate. Another alien appeared on the screen, smaller, but equally beautiful. High Counselor, perhaps we should demonstrate our capabilities so they understand the futility of resistance. Vex Miran nodded. Activate the beacon. One of the alien ships suddenly blazed with light. Energy beams reached out and touched several asteroids in the outer system. The massive rocks simply vanished, turned to dust in seconds. The display of power was clear. Resistance would be futile. The beacon will summon the Imperial fleet when your time is up, the High Counselor explained. Do not attempt to remove or damage it. That would be considered an act of war, and your species would be eliminated rather than integrated. Captain Morrison found his voice again. And if we refuse? If we choose to fight? The alien almost seemed to smile, though the expression was cold and terrible. Then you will join the other extinct species in our historical records. You are not the first young race to make such a mistake. The galaxy is vast, Captain Morrison. Your entire species is less significant than a single grain of sand on your beaches. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. On Earth, Admiral Carter stared at the blank screen while Dr. Ross frantically took notes. Around the world, government leaders who had been listening to the broadcast struggled to understand what they had just heard. Morrison walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the alien ships. They were already moving, preparing to leave the solar system. But the beacon they had left behind pulsed with ominous light, a constant reminder of the doom hanging over humanity. Sir, Lieutenant Clark said quietly, what do we do now? Morrison didn't answer immediately. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had just learned that their freedom had an expiration date. He thought about the generations of humans who had dreamed of meeting aliens and joining a galactic community. Those dreams had just become a nightmare. But he also thought about humanity's history. Every time someone had tried to conquer them, humans had found a way to fight back. They had faced impossible odds before and somehow survived. Maybe the aliens were right about humans being too violent and chaotic. If so, perhaps it was time to show these perfect crystal beings exactly what that violence and chaos could accomplish, when properly motivated. We go home, he said finally. We tell Earth what happened here. And then we get ready to prove these aliens wrong about one thing. What's that, sir? Morrison smiled grimly. They seem to think we'll just roll over and accept slavery. They're about to learn that humans don't give up without a fight, no matter how hopeless things look. President Helen Ward stood at the podium in the United Nations building, looking out at the faces of world leaders who had gathered for the emergency session. 3 days had passed since Captain Morrison's encounter with the Dominion Council, and the world was still in shock. Some countries wanted to surrender immediately. Others talked about fighting. Most were simply terrified. Ladies and gentlemen, President Ward began, her voice carrying clearly through the packed assembly hall. 18 months ago, we celebrated humanity's first successful faster-than-light flight. Today, we learn that achievement has doomed our species to slavery. The Russian representative stood up. President Ward, perhaps we should consider the aliens' offer. They said integration, not destruction. Maybe we can negotiate better terms. Ward's eyes flashed with anger. Better terms for slavery? There are no good terms for giving up our freedom. Humanity has faced extinction before. We survived the Ice Age, the Plague, 2 world wars, and climate change. We didn't survive by surrendering. In a secret facility beneath the Colorado mountains, engineer Alex Stone worked frantically on pieces of alien technology that Captain Morrison had managed to collect during the encounter. The fragments were tiny, just dust particles that had drifted off the alien ships, but they contained secrets that could change everything. This is incredible, Stone muttered, adjusting his microscope for the 100th time that day. His assistant, Dr. Maria Santos looked over his shoulder at the display screen. The alien technology was unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to be part machine and part living tissue, grown rather than built. "Alex, look at this," Maria said, pointing to a section of the sample. "These patterns aren't random. It's like the technology is trying to communicate with itself. Every piece wants to connect to every other piece." Stone leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "That's it. That's how their ships work. They're not built like our ships with separate systems. They're grown as single organisms. Everything is connected to everything else." "But how does that help us?" Maria asked. Stone smiled for the first time in days. "Because if everything is connected, then everything shares the same weaknesses. Hurt one part and you might be able to hurt the whole thing." At Peterson Space Force Base, Colonel Ryan Bell watched as workers converted civilian spacecraft into warships. It was a desperate effort, but it was all they had. Earth's military had been designed to fight other humans, not aliens with crystal, ships that could vaporize asteroids. "Sir, the modifications are almost complete," reported Major Kate Davis, her uniform dusty from working in the shipyards. "We've mounted railguns on 30 cargo haulers and installed the new shield generators on 50 fighters. It's not much, but it's better than nothing." Bell nodded grimly. "Any word from Dr. Clark's weapons program?" "She says the prototypes will be ready for testing next week. Something about using human creativity to turn their own technology against them." Dr. Amy Clark had been working nonstop in her laboratory, trying to understand how alien weapons functioned. The energy beams that had destroyed those asteroids were incredibly powerful, but they followed predictable patterns. Like Stone, she had noticed that alien technology seemed almost too perfect, too organized. "The problem with perfection," she told her research team, "is that it's predictable. Look at these energy patterns. They never vary, never adapt. Our weapons are messier, but that makes them harder to defend against." Her assistant, Lieutenant Ben Parker, looked at the test results. "So you're saying our inferior technology might actually be an advantage?" "Not inferior. Different. The aliens have had the same technology for thousands of years. They've perfected it, but they've also made it rigid. Our technology changes every year. We adapt, we improvise, we make mistakes and learn from them. That chaos they complained about? It might be exactly what we need." Back at the United Nations, the debate had been going on for hours. The Chinese representative was speaking now, his voice tight with worry. "President Ward, you talk about fighting, but look at what they did to those asteroids. Our weapons are toys compared to their power." Ward stood up again, her jaw set with determination. "Yes, they're more powerful, but power isn't everything. David beat Goliath with a sling and a stone. We need to be smarter, faster, and more determined than they are." The British representative, an elderly woman with kind eyes, raised her hand. "What exactly are you proposing, Madam President?" "I'm proposing that we show these aliens exactly why they were right to be afraid of humanity. They called us violent and chaotic. They said we were too dangerous for their perfect galaxy. Let's prove them right." In deep space, Captain Morrison commanded a small fleet of Earth's fastest ships on a dangerous mission. They were heading toward the edge of known space, following energy signatures that might lead them to alien territory. It was a huge risk, but they needed to know more about their enemies. "Captain, we're picking up something," reported navigator Susan Lee from her station. "Large structure about 2 light years ahead. It doesn't match any known stellar phenomena." Morrison moved to the sensor station and studied the readings. "It's artificial. Has to be. Take us in closer, but keep us ready to run if things go bad." What they found changed everything. It was a massive space station, bigger than Earth's moon, but it was clearly abandoned. Scorch marks covered its surface, and huge sections had been torn away by weapons fire. "My God," whispered Dr. Ross, who had joined the mission to study alien technology. "Captain, I'm reading life signs inside, weak but definitely there." The rescue team that boarded the station found survivors from a dozen different alien species, all of them former slaves of the Galactic Empire. They told a story that filled Morrison with both hope and rage. The Empire ruled through fear, conquering species after species and forcing them to serve. But their control wasn't as complete as they claimed. Rebellions happened regularly, though most failed because the rebels fought alone, without help from other species. "They told you the same lies they tell everyone," said one survivor, a reptilian, being with intelligent eyes. "They say resistance is futile. They say they are too powerful to defeat. But we have seen their weaknesses. Their ships are strong but not invincible. Their armies are large but spread thin across 1,000 worlds." Morrison felt hope growing in his chest. "You're saying they can be beaten?" "Not easily. Not by one species alone. But together, with enough determination and the right strategy, yes, they can be beaten." The alien pointed to the wreckage around them. This station was destroyed because its people chose death over slavery. But before they died, they sent out a message to every slave world in the Empire. That message is still spreading, still inspiring others to resist. Back on Earth, President Ward addressed the world one final time before the crucial vote. "The choice before us is simple. We can surrender our freedom and hope these aliens treat us well as slaves, or we can fight for the right to remain free, no matter what the cost." The aliens said we were too violent for their galaxy, too chaotic, too dangerous. They were trying to insult us, but they spoke the truth. We are violent when someone threatens our families. We are chaotic when someone tries to control us. And we are very, very dangerous when someone tries to take away our freedom. The vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth chose to fight. In her laboratory, Dr. Clark activated the first prototype of humanity's new weapon. It was based on alien technology, but modified by human creativity and desperation. Instead of the organized, predictable energy beams the aliens used, this weapon fired chaotic bursts that changed patterns every time. "It's not as powerful as their weapons," she explained to Colonel Bell. "But it doesn't need to be. Their shields are designed to stop organized attacks. This should slip right through." Alex Stone made his own breakthrough the same day. He had figured out how to interfere with the aliens' communication system. "Their technology is all connected," he explained to a room full of military leaders. "That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. If we can hack into one system, we might be able to affect their entire fleet." As the deadline approached, humanity prepared for war. Ships were armed with new weapons, soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat, and scientists worked around the clock to find new ways to level the playing field. The aliens had given humanity 18 months to accept slavery. Instead, humanity had used that time to become something the galaxy had never seen before. A young species that refused to bow down to ancient powers. The crystal ships hanging in space near Pluto began to pulse with light. The Imperial fleet was coming, expecting to find a defeated planet ready for conquest. They were about to discover that humans had always been very bad at doing what they were told. The Imperial fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly 18 months after the first warning, just as High Counselor Vex Moran had promised. Fleet Admiral Chen Wang commanded over 200 crystal ships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. They expected to find Earth's military forces surrendering peacefully, ready to accept their new role as servants of the Empire. Instead, they found humanity's entire space fleet waiting for them in battle formation. "This is Admiral Wang of the KO Imperial Fleet to the humans of Earth," came the transmission. "You were given clear instructions to prepare for integration. Instead, you have chosen to display your military forces in a threatening manner. Stand down immediately or you will be destroyed." Admiral Lisa Carter responded from her flagship, the Defender, humanity's largest warship. "This is Admiral Carter, of Earth Defense Command. Your 18 months are up, Admiral Wang. You want our planet? Come and take it." Wang's ship, a massive crystal fortress called the Eternal Dominion, moved closer to Earth's fleet. Around it, the other Imperial ships formed perfect geometric patterns, their movements synchronized like a deadly dance. To the alien admiral, the human ships looked tiny and pathetic, like insects trying to challenge giants. "Admiral Carter, I will give you one final chance to surrender," Wang transmitted. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. This battle will end in your complete destruction." "Maybe," Carter replied, "but we're going to make you work for it." The first shot came from an Imperial cruiser, a beam of pure energy that should have cut the human destroyer Lightning in half. Instead, the beam scattered against a shimmering energy shield that flickered with chaotic patterns. Dr. Clark's new, defensive technology was working exactly as designed. Wong stared at his tactical display in confusion. How did they stop our weapons? His tactical officer, a crystalline being with 4 arms, checked the readings twice before answering. Sir, their shields are generating random interference patterns. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto them properly. The human fleet attacked immediately after deflecting that first shot. Captain Susan Lee led the charge in her new ship, the Ghost Rider, the first vessel equipped with humanity's most secret weapon, a cloaking device that made it invisible to alien sensors. This is Ghost Leader to all units, Lee transmitted. Beginning attack run on the flagship. Cover me. The Ghost Rider vanished from the alien sensors just as it entered weapons range of the Eternal Dominion. Wong watched in horror as explosions suddenly appeared along his ship's hull, caused by weapons he couldn't see firing from a ship that shouldn't exist. Find that vessel, Wong screamed at his crew. How can they hide from our sensors? The answer was simple but devastating. Human technology was messier than alien technology, less organized and predictable. The aliens' perfect sensors were designed to detect perfect energy signatures. The chaotic emissions from human cloaking devices were so random that the alien computers dismissed them as background noise. Captain Lee pushed her ship into the heart of the alien formation, firing at everything within range. Her weapons weren't as powerful as the aliens, but they didn't need to be. The enemy shields were designed to stop organized attacks, not the wild, unpredictable fire patterns that human desperation had created. Ghost Leader to control, Lee reported as she pulled away from the alien flagship, which was now burning from a dozen wounds. First run complete. Enemy flagship is damaged but still operational. Admiral Carter smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display. The alien fleet was powerful, but they were reacting slowly to tactics they had never seen before. All ships, execute Plan Chaos. Show them what human unpredictability really means. The human fleet scattered in all directions, abandoning any pretense of organized formations. Each ship captain was free to attack whatever target looked most promising, using whatever tactics they thought might work. To the aliens, who fought in perfect coordination, it looked like complete madness, and it was working. Commander Nick Torres led a squadron of converted cargo ships in a boarding attack that no military academy in the galaxy would have approved. His ships had been fitted with magnetic docking clamps and filled with Marines in powered armor. They flew straight at an alien cruiser, ignoring the energy beams trying to destroy them. Ramming speed, Torres shouted as his ship slammed into the crystal hull of the enemy vessel. The magnetic clamps locked on, and cutting torches began burning through the alien ship's armor. Sir, their hull is incredibly strong, reported Sergeant Jim Walsh as his Marines worked to break through. It's going to take time to cut through this. Torres grinned inside his helmet. Then we'll make time. Keep cutting. The alien crew inside. The cruiser had never experienced a boarding action before. For thousands of years, space battles had been fought at long range with energy weapons. The idea of enemy soldiers actually entering their ship was so foreign that they had no procedures for dealing with it. When Torres and his Marines finally broke through the hull, they found the alien crew standing around in confusion, completely unprepared for close combat. The crystal beings were beautiful and elegant, but they had no idea how to fight soldiers in powered armor carrying shotguns and plasma rifles. This is Boarding Team Alpha, Torres reported as his Marines secured the alien bridge. Target is captured, attempting to access their computer systems. Major Kate Davis had converted Earth's moon into the solar system's largest weapons platform. Hidden missile silos and railgun batteries covered the lunar surface, all controlled from a command center buried deep underground. When the Imperial fleet moved closer to Earth, she activated every weapon at once. Fire everything, Davis ordered, and the moon lit up like a miniature sun as thousands of missiles and projectiles streamed toward the alien ships. Admiral Wong, watched in disbelief as the missiles swarmed around his fleet. Most were destroyed by defensive fire, but there were too many to stop them all. Explosions bloomed across the crystal hulls of his ships as Earth's desperate weapons found their targets. "How many missiles do they have?" Wong demanded. "Sensors show over 10,000 launched so far, sir. And they're still firing." Wong realized with growing horror that the humans had turned their entire moon into a single massive weapon. No civilized species would do such a thing. It was wasteful, dangerous, and completely insane. It was also devastatingly effective. Dr. Amy Clark watched the battle from her laboratory ship, Innovation, as her new weapons proved themselves in combat. The chaotic energy beams cut through, alien shields like knives through paper, while the random interference patterns made human ships almost impossible to target accurately. "Dr. Clark," called her assistant, "we're receiving reports from all over the fleet. Your weapons are working perfectly. Enemy ships are taking heavy damage." Clark nodded, but her expression remained serious. "They're tough, though. Look at that. Flagship. We've hit it dozens of times and it's still fighting." The battle raged for 6 hours. The alien fleet was more powerful, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity. Every time they adapted to one human tactic, the humans would try something completely different. It was like fighting smoke. Every time they thought they had figured out the human strategy, it would change into something else entirely. Finally, Admiral Wong made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His fleet was badly damaged. Several ships had been captured by boarding parties, and the humans showed no signs of giving up. Worse, they were learning from every exchange, getting better at fighting his ships with each passing hour. "All ships, prepare to retreat," Wong ordered, his voice bitter with defeat. "We withdraw to the outer system." Before leaving, Wong opened a channel to the human fleet. Admiral Carter's face appeared on his screen, showing the determined expression of a leader whose people had just won an impossible victory. "This is not over, Admiral Carter," Wong warned. "You have won one battle, but the Empire has thousands of ships. We will return with overwhelming force, and next time, there will be no mercy for your species." Carter's smile was cold and dangerous. "We'll be waiting, Admiral Wong, and next time we'll be ready for you." As the Imperial fleet limped away from Earth, leaving behind the wreckage of a dozen ships and the captured crews of 3 cruisers, humanity celebrated its first victory against the galaxy's greatest power. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would return, angrier and stronger than before. The question was whether humanity could turn this single victory into something more, a real chance at freedom for Earth and all the other species suffering under Imperial rule. In the captured alien ships, human scientists began the careful work of studying enemy technology. The prisoners, many of them wounded and all of them confused by their defeat, faced questions they had never expected to hear. "Why do you serve the Empire?" Captain Morrison asked one of the alien officers. "What do you get out of conquering other species?" The crystal being looked at him with genuine puzzlement. "It is the natural order. The strong rule the weak. The Empire brings stability to chaos. How can you not understand this?" Morrison shook his head. "Where I come from, we have a saying. Freedom is worth fighting for even if you lose, especially if you lose." 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Grand Admiral Zix Thalen arrived at the edge of human space with the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. 2,000 crystal ships stretched across the darkness, each one burning with barely contained fury. The Empire had never lost a battle to a primitive species, and the humiliation demanded overwhelming response. "High Command has authorized total extermination," Zix Thalen announced to his fleet commanders during their final briefing. "No prisoners, no integration. The humans will serve as an example to any other species that might consider resistance." But when the massive Imperial fleet reached Earth's solar system, they found it empty. The human military forces had vanished, leaving behind only automated defense platforms and a single message beacon. Admiral Wong, who had been forced to serve as Zix Thalen's tactical advisor after his defeat, watched the Grand Admiral's colors shift to angry purples as the message played. "Greetings, Grand Admiral," came Jake Morrison's voice from the beacon. He had been promoted after the first battle and now commanded humanity's entire space fleet. By the time you hear this, we'll be long gone. You want to fight us? You'll have to find us first. Zix Thalin's beautiful face twisted with rage. Where? Are they hiding? Search every planet, every asteroid, every grain of dust in this system. The search took weeks, but they found nothing except empty military bases and abandoned shipyards. The humans had completely evacuated their home system, taking their entire fleet and most of their population to unknown locations in deep space. Sir, reported the fleet's intelligence officer, a spider-like being with multiple eyes. Our scouts have detected energy signatures consistent with human FTL drives in 17 different sectors. They're not hiding. They're spreading out across the galaxy. Zix Thalin stared at the tactical display showing human ships scattered across thousands of light years. What are they planning? He got his answer 3 days later when reports started coming in from across the Empire. Human forces were attacking Imperial outposts, freeing slave worlds and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. It wasn't a traditional military campaign. It was guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Commander Steve Parker led a liberation force that included humans and aliens working together. The planet's surface was scarred by massive excavation sites where enslaved species dug rare minerals for the Empire's use. Remember, we're not here to conquer, Parker told his mixed force of human marines and alien freedom fighters. We're here to liberate. The people on this world have been slaves for generations. Show them what freedom looks like. The Imperial garrison was completely unprepared for the attack. They had grown lazy after centuries of unchallenged rule, never expecting anyone to challenge their authority on such a remote world. Parker's forces hit them at dawn, using the same chaotic tactics that had worked so well at Earth. The battle was over in 4 hours. The Imperial troops surrendered or fled, leaving behind warehouses full of stolen resources and thousands of newly freed slaves. But the real victory came when the liberated species saw humans fighting and dying to free people they had never met. Why do you help us? Asked one of the freed miners, a large creature with thick fur and sad eyes. We are not your people. We cannot repay this debt. Parker smiled and handed the alien a rifle taken from the Imperial armory. We help you because it's the right thing to do, and you can repay the debt by helping us free the next world. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human forces struck at Imperial targets. Captain Jennifer Lewis commanded the carrier Freedom's Call, which had become a mobile base for recruiting new allies. Every freed world sent volunteers to join the growing rebellion. Admiral Morrison, Lewis reported during one of their encrypted communications, we now have forces from over 30 species fighting alongside us. The Empire is losing control of entire sectors. Morrison smiled from his command ship, the New Horizon, which had been upgraded into humanity's mobile capital. Any word from our intelligence teams inside Imperial space? Dr. Ross says his spy networks are working better than expected. Turns out a lot of alien species have been waiting for someone to show them how to fight back. Dr. Kevin Ross had become humanity's spy master, using captured alien technology to infiltrate Imperial communication networks. What he discovered changed everything they knew about their enemies. The Empire isn't as strong as they pretend to be, Ross explained during a secret briefing with Morrison and his senior staff. They rule through fear and reputation, but their actual military forces are spread incredibly thin. They have thousands of worlds to control, but only a few hundred ships to do it with. What about their reserve fleets? Asked Colonel Ryan Bell, now promoted to general and commanding all human ground forces. That's the beautiful part, Ross replied with a grin. Most of their reserve fleets are made up of ships from conquered species. Ships that might not fight so hard if they knew they had a choice. Morrison studied the intelligence reports with growing excitement. You're saying the Empire is mostly built on bluff? Not entirely. Their core fleets are still very dangerous, but the majority of their power comes from convinced slaves who think resistance is hopeless. Change that belief, and their whole system falls apart. The proof of Ross's theory came when human forces attacked the Imperial stronghold at Rigel 7. The planet was defended by a mixed fleet of Imperial ships and vessels from conquered species. But when Admiral Carter's fleet arrived and began broadcasting messages of liberation, something unprecedented happened. This is Admiral Carter of the Human Liberation Fleet. To all enslaved crews in the Imperial Formation, she transmitted on all frequencies. You don't have to fight for your oppressors anymore. Join us and help free your own people. 3 alien ships immediately switched sides, turning their weapons on their former Imperial commanders. Within an hour, half the defensive fleet had joined the rebellion. The remaining Imperial ships fled rather than fight against overwhelming odds. Grand Admiral Zix Thalen watched these reports with growing desperation. His massive fleet was still searching for the main human force, but every day brought news of new defeats and defections. Entire sectors were in open revolt, inspired by humanity's example. "How many ships have we lost to defection?" he demanded of his intelligence staff. "Over 400 confirmed, sir, and the numbers are growing daily. Many of our subject species are refusing to fight against the humans." Zix Thalen's colors shifted to deep black, the alien equivalent of pure rage. "They're making our own slaves fight against us. It's a violation of every civilized rule of warfare." "Sir," ventured his tactical advisor, "perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. This rebellion is spreading faster than we can contain it." "Never," Zix Thalen screamed, his crystalline form blazing with fury. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We will hunt down every human ship and destroy them, no matter how long it takes." But hunting the humans proved impossible. Their ships appeared without warning, struck at Imperial targets, freed more slaves, and vanished back into deep space before reinforcements could arrive. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The breakthrough came when human forces captured the Imperial Communications Hub at Alpha Centauri Station. The facility contained complete records of every Imperial ship movement, every slave world, and every weakness in their vast empire. "My God," whispered Dr. Amy Clark as she studied the captured data. "They're even weaker than we thought. Look at these numbers. They've been using the same lies and threats for thousands of years, but they're actually outnumbered by their own slaves by 1,000 to 1. Morrison studied the intelligence with his senior staff aboard the New Horizon. For the first time since the war began, he allowed himself to hope they might actually win. "Dr. Ross, how long would it take to get this information to every slave world in the Empire? With their own communication networks? Maybe 6 months to reach everyone? Do it. Show every enslaved species in the galaxy exactly how weak their key masters really are. Show them that the Empire can be beaten." As the information spread across the galaxy, carried by human agents and sympathetic aliens, the Empire began to crumble from within. Worlds that had been slaves for centuries suddenly realized they outnumbered their oppressors by incredible margins. The first major revolt began on Vega Prime, where 10 billion enslaved beings rose up against 10,000 Imperial administrators. Grand Admiral Zix Thalen received the news of Vega Prime's fall while still searching empty space for the main human fleet. His beautiful crystalline face showed something that had never been seen before in an Imperial officer. "Fear, sir," reported his communications officer. "We're receiving revolt reports from over 200 worlds. The humans' information campaign is working. Our subjects believe they can win." Zix Thalen stared out at the stars, each one representing worlds that might already be lost to the rebellion. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was falling apart, and it had taken humans less than 2 years to make it happen. "Find them," he whispered, his colors shifting to desperate blues and purples. "Find the human fleet and destroy it. It's the only way to stop this madness." Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the massive fleet spread out before him. 2 years had passed since the aliens first came to Earth with their warning. Now, hundreds of ships from dozens of different worlds flew together toward the heart of the Galactic Empire. The alien capital world of Dominion Prime grew larger on the main screen. Its surface glowed with the light of 1,000 cities, each one a monument to the Empire's power over the galaxy. For centuries, this world had been the center of fear and control. Today, it would become the symbol of freedom. "All ships report." "Ready, Admiral," said Captain Susan Lee from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried across the bridge with quiet confidence. The woman had come a long way since piloting that first suicide run against the Imperial fleet. 2 years ago, Morrison nodded and opened a channel to the entire Liberation fleet. This is Admiral Morrison to all ships. Today we finish what we started when they told us we weren't good enough for their galaxy. We're not here to destroy them. We're here to free them, just like we freed everyone else. On the planet below, Grand Admiral Zixthelen paced in his crystal command chamber. The tall alien's body flickered with angry colors as reports came in from across the Empire. World after world had fallen to the human rebels, and their growing army of former slaves. His once mighty empire was crumbling faster than he had ever thought possible. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his aide, a smaller alien with 4 arms and worried eyes. "Our scouts count over 800 vessels, Grand Admiral. Most are from species we once controlled. They fight alongside the humans now." Zixthalen's colors shifted to deep purple, the alien equivalent of rage. "Impossible. Our subjects have always obeyed. They fear us." "Not anymore, sir. The humans have shown them something different. They fight not because they have to, but because they want to." The first wave of human ships broke through the outer defenses like a storm. Captain Jennifer Lewis led her carrier Freedom's Call straight into the heart of the Imperial fleet. Fighter ships launched from her vessel like angry wasps, each one piloted by beings from different worlds who had joined the human cause. Commander Steve Parker's voice crackled over the radio from his bomber. "This is Lightning Squadron. We're going after their main shield generators." His ship dove toward the planet's surface, followed by a mixed group of human and alien pilots who had learned to work together like family. The Imperial ships tried to form defensive lines, but they had never faced anything like this before. The human fleet didn't fight like an army. They fought like a pack of wolves, each ship supporting the others, covering weaknesses and striking where the enemy least expected it. Dr. Amy Clark watched the battle from the science vessel Discovery. Her weapons had helped make this victory possible. But she knew the real power came from something else. The alien fighters moved differently now. They weren't just following orders like they used to. They were fighting for something they believed. "In Admiral Morrison," she called over the radio. "I'm reading massive energy buildup from the capital city. I think they're preparing to activate some kind of doomsday weapon." Morrison's jaw tightened. Intelligence reports had suggested the Empire might try to destroy their own capital rather than let it fall. "All ships, this is Morrison. Priority target is now the planetary weapon system. We need to stop them before they can fire. Captain?" Tony Murphy heard the order from the bridge of his battleship Defiance. The big ship had taken heavy damage in the fighting, but her weapons still worked. "Admiral, we're closest to the target. My ship can take out their weapon, but we'll have to get in close, real close." Morrison knew what that meant. The Defiance would have to fly directly into the planet's defensive fire to reach the weapon. It would be a suicide run. "Tony, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." Murphy's voice came, back calm and steady. "Sir, 2 years ago those aliens told us we weren't good enough for their galaxy. Today we show them what humans are really made of. Defiance is going in." The battleship turned toward the planet, her engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Every gun on the surface fired at the lone ship as it dove toward the massive weapon that could destroy the entire capital. Murphy's crew worked at their stations, keeping the ship flying even as explosions tore through the hull. "This is for everyone who ever told us we weren't good enough," Murphy said quietly, then pushed the ship's engines to maximum power. The Defiance struck the weapon, complex in a ball of white fire that lit up half the planet. The explosion was so bright that ships throughout the system had to shield their sensors. When the light faded, the doomsday weapon was gone, and the capital lay defenseless. But something else had happened too. Across the planet's surface, the alien population was rising up against their own government. They had watched the human sacrifice, seen beings who barely knew them die to protect their world from their own leaders. The sight of such courage had finally broken the fear that had held them down for so long. Grand Admiral Zixthalen found his command center surrounded by his own people. The aliens who had served the Empire for generations now looked at him with new eyes. They had seen what the humans offered, and they wanted no more of the old ways. "Stand down, Grand Admiral," said his former aide, the four-armed alien now wearing the colors of the rebellion. "The Empire is over. It's time for something better." The surrender came 3 hours later. Admiral Morrison received the message. On his damaged flagship, surrounded by the mixed fleet that had made victory possible. Ships from dozens of worlds floated together in space, their crews working side by side to rescue survivors and begin the work of rebuilding. 6 months after the fall of Dominion Prime, President Helen Ward stood before the first Galactic Assembly of Free Worlds. The meeting hall had been built in Earth's orbit, a symbol that no single world would dominate the new government. Representatives from hundreds of species sat together, each with an equal voice in shaping their shared future. 2 years ago, an empire told us we weren't good enough to join their galaxy, Ward said to the assembled crowd. They were right. We weren't good enough to join an empire built on fear and slavery, but we were good enough to help build something better. A galaxy where every species, no matter how young or old, has the right to reach for the stars. Admiral Morrison watched from the observation deck as the former enemies signed treaties of friendship and cooperation. The galaxy's resources and knowledge would be shared freely among all worlds. No one would be slaves again. Later that night, Morrison stood alone on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Captain Susan Lee joined him, her face peaceful in the starlight. "Think we did the right thing, Admiral?" she asked. Morrison smiled, remembering the arrogant aliens who had first come to Earth with their warning. "I think we showed them that being human isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to fight for others, even when the odds are against you." Outside the window, ships from 100 worlds worked together, building the future that humanity had fought to make possible. The galaxy was free and humanity had finally found its place among the stars,